Hey, been a little bit since I did a video. Figured I'd do another one. WEF, something that I wish would come back. But by the looks of things, and considering it's been officially shut down for 3 years, I don't think it ever will come back. But let's say, hypothetically, WEF actually were to come back. There is one person that I have talked about before plenty of times. I want to say both on this channel and on the Real Undisputed Wrestling YouTube channel, which I will leave linked in the description below. That person being Lumberjack. The guy who played both the Lumberjack and the Swamp Man character. Now, there is a reason I do not want him to ever come back, not only to WEF, but to backyard wrestling, period. And it's for the simple reason you don't know what you're doing. You don't. You can say all this stuff of like, oh, I'm trained and, you know, I train professionally and I know what I'm doing. For that, I will give you your props and I will give you credit. You do know what you're doing. Like, I don't want to sit here and say, I hate you. I don't hate you. I don't even despise you. So, I wouldn't even say I have beef with you. I'm giving you constructive criticism. Because, like, there's this whole thing that, like, oh, I have a beef with this guy. It's not even necessarily that. And, like, if it is beef, it's one sided. And I think it's just he doesn't like me or whatever. So, ladies and gentlemen, this will be the very last final video that I will be making addressing Lumberjacks slash Swamp Man. So, due to WEF most likely not coming back, there may be times in this video, whether it's intentional or unintentional, where I do say this guy's real name. However, actually, no, I'm not even going to say his real name. I know I've probably said his real name before in the past, but for this video and for his privacy, because I don't want people to harass him, I'm going to call him E. I may even call him Eli. But when I first started in WEF, things actually went pretty great. I think I shared the story on how I actually got into contact with WEF, but just in case I didn't, I'm going to tell y'all now. So, for those of you who know, or for those of you who may not know, I have been a fan of professional wrestling, specifically WWE, even though I watch practically everything under the sun that I'm able to watch. I have been a fan of WWE since I was 7. By the time you are seeing this video, I am 20. So that's 13 years of me being a professional wrestling fan. And when I first discovered wrestling, I never really thought of the possibility of, oh, I can do this. It wasn't until I was about 9 or 10 when I started discovering like other avenues of professional wrestling, i.e., the independent scene and like other wrestlers and like even some of my favorite wrestlers that I had at the time doing other stuff. For example, Jon Moxley. When I became a fan of him, he was Dean Ambrose. When I was about 10 or 11 years old, I discovered John Moxley and his days in CZW and that hardcore fucking deathmatch shit that he does. And I've loved John Moxley since. And um what actually got me into like wanting to do this wrestling shit like for real is when I met my best friend Michael. Me and Michael go way back. At the time that you are watching this, at the time this has been uploaded, we've been friends now for this year will make 7 years we have been best friends. We got together through our love of wrestling. I met him in person. Me and him even played WWE 2K15 together because he had a PlayStation 3 at the time, and that was the only wrestling game he had on it. So me and him would just go back and forth playing 2K15. And I even had my own Xbox. It's now my old Xbox. It's sitting right over there. It's not plugged into anything. It's just kind of in a box. Uh, but on that, I had WWE 2K19, and me and him would do matches on that. So, and from 2K19, Michael had the brilliant idea. I know it sounds like I'm getting off track, but this is literally me telling you the story of how I got into wrestling and where my career in backyard wrestling started. Don't worry, we will get there. Um, so from 2K19, Michael had the brilliant idea of creating a universe mode in 2K19 where we would implement our own characters and basically he goes after one world title, I'll go after another, and we basically put ourselves on different divisions. I want to say I was on SmackDown and he was on Raw or vice versa. You get the point. But we would basically try to see who is more successful, who won more titles, who won more matches, etc., etc. Um, so in that universe mode, I didn't even have the character of Alexander Souls or anything. The character that I had in mind was Ashface. Ashface was created from WWE 2K19. Came from a video game first, then became real. Chris Danger, etc., etc. Uh, but what really helped me create RUW was I remember for the longest time just wanting a championship, whether it was like a replica WWE championship or just whatever it was. Like I wanted a belt to carry around. I didn't want the plastic replicas anymore. Like I wanted the real deal, like the real good quality shit. So I remember my mom, she found a website that actually does custom championship belts for not really that high of a price, if I'm being honest. I want to say at the time, and it may still be the same today. Uh, I actually want to give a shout out to these guys who helped me make my championship belt. The website is undisputedbelts.com. I will also leave a link to that in the description below in case y'all want to check it out. Let me tell you, man, the championship designs on that thing are absolutely endless. I want to say that they've got like two, or maybe they've added more since the last time I checked. But the last time I checked, they had like two design templates you could choose from. You could add PNG images to the front plates, to the side plates. You could add practically whatever you want. And even the straps have like different patterns that you could choose from. They got like camo, they got gator, which is basically like alligator skin. Uh but when I created the championship, I just wanted to keep it plain and simple, make it look like not too goofy and not too like over the top. I wanted a white strap with gold plates. And when I created it, I had inaugural written on the top banner on the front plate, and on the bottom, undisputed champion or something like that. It either said undisputed championship. I know it said like undisputed champion something. It said something like that. Uh, I ordered it, waited a couple weeks, it arrived in the mail. And here's the story of how RUW was born. I got the championship. I basically had it for like a week or so. My best friend Michael knew at the time that I had it. But I remember texting him one day and just like, I don't know what it was. It was just, I was thinking and I was like, I want to do more with this championship. Like, I don't just want to have it. Like, I want it to like mean something. So I remember telling Michael that, excuse me. I remember telling Michael that, and he was just like, you know, you're a big wrestling fan. I'm a big wrestling fan. Why don't you make a company out of it? And at first, I had no idea what the fuck he was talking about because I was like a fucking idiot and didn't understand what the fuck was going on. And he was like, make like a backyard wrestling company out of it. And ladies and gentlemen, Real Undisputed Wrestling was born. We are now, at the timing of this being uploaded, we are approaching the 6-year anniversary of Real Undisputed Wrestling. RUW was created May 16th of 2020. And, it's been going on ever since. So, like, I remember creating the logo, which was that old, like, black and white logo with the fist, and it had RUW written underneath it. I look back at it, that logo kind of sucked, but for what it was at the time and when I created it and why, like, I thought it was okay. But now we have that badass RUW with the barbed wire logo. So, but man, I just remember for the longest fucking time, just not really knowing what to do with RUW or the championship. I remember our very first video on the RUW YouTube channel, which, by the way, in case you've forgotten, links in the description for that channel. Our very first video on the channel, I was showing off the RUW World Championship. I remember creating it, and like at first, I was like, do I even want to make it the world title? Because it doesn't look like a world title. But then again, I thought to myself, how the fuck can I make a backyard wrestling company and not have a world title? Because I remember at first I wanted to make that championship like the Intercontinental Championship for RUW. What the fuck was I thinking? How can you make a backyard wrestling company without a fucking world title? What am I, stupid? So I remember making that championship the world title, and RUW has been a thing ever since. And I've had a couple people, you probably know who the fuck I'm talking about, that have come and go from RUW. A couple of fucking idiots who think they know how to do this shit and they want to treat RUW like a fucking joke. I'm not going to get into that conversation. That is a conversation for another day. If you want a video on me discussing that topic, leave a comment down below. Let me know. But, like, I've seen people in RUW come and go. But I remember ever since, once we built a, I don't even know if I could say solid roster, it has been me, Michael, my brother, my older brother, and Poison. It was just us four the whole time. Um Now Poison has left RUW and come back. I remember he did like, I want to say one or like a couple promos in RUW, And then like the most recent thing he did in RUW was a Bad Attitude Sessions podcast with me, where I interviewed him and I asked him what he thought, and I talked about the now exiled from RUW Mark Jones. That is also a totally different story. Um, but like we did a lot of things with RUW, but the story that I want to get into is how I got introduced to WEF and how I met those guys and how I got involved in the business. Yada yada yada. Um so being in high school, I want to say I was a hang on, I'm thinking of the year. So I got involved in WEF like late 2021. So the school year would have been 2021 to 2022. I was a junior. I was a junior at the time that I heard about WEF. And from the time I started my freshman year of high school up until like the tail end of my junior year, I went to a specific high school. I won't say which one it is for privacy reasons, but there I met a girl. Her name was Olivia. We never dated. We never did anything like that. So don't start. We were friends because like my brother was friends with her sister, and then I became friends with her, and she knew. I don't know how because I don't remember telling her, but she had found out that I had a love for wrestling. She knew Chris. I think she said like Chris was her cousin or something, which like small world we live in. Holy fucking shit. If it hadn't had been for her, I probably never would have fucking started a backyard wrestling career. So, Olivia, highly doubt you're watching this. If you are though, I seriously cannot thank you enough for getting me into contact with Chris and helping me find WEF, and even if it was for a short period of time, allowing me to like genuinely do something I enjoyed. And I look back at it now and I'm just like, that is the most fun I've ever had in my life. And fucking wish so bad I could do that shit again. But if WEF doesn't come back, which like I said, I highly doubt it ever will, like I honestly don't know where to go unless I get a car or I find someone who's nice enough to take me down to Tennessee so I could be part of the TBW roster. I genuinely don't know what I'm gonna do. Uh, but back on track. Olivia gave me Chris's Snapchat. Got into contact with him. On the day that I started texting him, I joined the roster because I told him about the character that I wanted to do, my presentation, if I was a heel or a face, my nickname, my wrestling name, my theme song, all of that. And I want to say like a week or two after, I went down there for my very first training session. And from that came, on the very first day that I went down there, I had also filmed my very first match. This one's kind of on me. I'll be honest, I did kind of lie to Chris because one of the questions that he asked me was, do you have any prior experience in backyard wrestling? I told him yes, even though I didn't. I guess I just didn't want to sound like a fucking idiot, but I should have just been straight up honest and said no, I don't. But like I said, that one's on me. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, but yeah. However, they did soon realize that I needed training, and this is where we officially start our story with E. Okay? Mm, I remember just going in there for my first day of training, E was actually the guy who picked me up and took me down there. So, and at first everything went okay. I'd say my first couple of training sessions with them went pretty well. I recorded my first two matches in WEF on the same day. So, the gauntlet match that I had where I made my debut as the last participant, as well as the match that I did with Demolition that was posted like a week or two later, I actually filmed both of those matches in the same fucking day. Chris, he was one of those people where he would try to record two shows like all on one day. That way we could have like a week off. Because what he would do is he would edit the first show and upload it for later that week. And then the second show, he would upload it for next week. So we would have like a week off. And my first couple training sessions, like I said, I thought went really well. But then there comes the stuff where I actually start to take bumps and I'm actually learning how to move around the ring, different forms of offense, different forms of defense, all that stuff. And I remember taking my first bit of offense in a training session. Typically, in wrestling, I don't know about backyard wrestling, but typically in wrestling, aside from practicing a standard bump where you sweep your legs out from underneath you, you land back first, you tuck your chin, and that's a bump. Typically, the first bump that you learn in wrestling is a body slam. You learn how to do it, and you learn how to take it. Normally, if I'm not mistaken, you take the move first. That was not the first bump that we did. Mainly down to the fact that none of the WEF guys were, and this is no dig at them, this is just me speaking the truth. None of the other WEF guys had A, the strength, or B, the knowledge to do a body slam. Uh, like, I think only like one or two of the guys there actually knew how to do a body slam, but it was more like a Michinoku driver, if you know what that move is, for all my wrestling fans out there. Uh, so like they would do that, but it was more of like a Michinoku driver. So like none of the guys really knew how to do a body slam. So like I could kind of get why we didn't practice that, because if no one knows how to do it, then why are we practicing it? You know. The very first bump that I took in a ring, specifically a backyard wrestling ring, was a vertical suplex. Okay? Here's the thing though. When I took the suplexes, E was the guy who gave them to me. Okay? But his issue was that he didn't tell me how to take the move. He didn't tell me how to prepare myself to take the move. He just expected me to just fucking know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't. Okay? And it was pretty fucking obvious when I took that first suplex, because I didn't rotate, because I didn't think you had to. I thought your opponent, when they lift you up for the suplex, helps rotate you. I didn't know. I was 16 and young, alright? I was inexperienced. I didn't know. I literally landed like, it's hard to see with my hand, but where my finger is, I landed like here. Like very high on my shoulder blades. And oh my god, dude, that feeling when that hit hurt like a actually, I don't no, it didn't even really hurt. It was kind of numbing in a way. Because, like, I hit and I was fine. But, like, my head was just like, what the fuck happened? So then, only after I fucked up the landing for the suplex, that is when E was like, hey, you don't take the move that way. What you do is you have to rotate and make sure you land on your back. I'm in the corner, dazed out of my fucking mind over what the fuck just happened. And he wants me to get up and take another suplex. I gotta sit in the corner for a minute to fucking regain my shit. And once I did, I got hooked for the suplex again. I rotated, landed properly, got the fucking wind knocked the fuck out of me, which is perfectly normal. I didn't mind that. And the second time I took the suplex was fine. The issue that I had was the first time I took it, you didn't tell me how to take it until I fuck it up. What if I was to get seriously injured because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing? Tell me how to take something first before having me take it. That way you know for a fact, since you told me, I should know what I'm doing. And this is where we start to get into the problems that E had. So, I remember for the rest of that day, all I took was bump after bump after bump after bump. That's like the only thing that they focused on. And it literally got to the point where I took so many bumps by the same person, by the way, E, that I literally couldn't wrestle that day. Because my chest and my sternum was so fucked up and was in so much pain that I didn't know if I was even okay. Like, it hurt like a motherfucker. But thankfully, it took like a week, maybe a week and a half, for me to actually get healed. Matter of fact, this clip from WEF Strikeout's intro, that is me on screen. That is the day that I did the back bumps. And for a second, I thought there's no way I could get on these ropes because my sternum hurts like a bitch and I could barely move. But we filmed that part of the intro because Chris wanted me in the intro. But that was after I had done my back bump sessions and I was in so much fucking pain. My sternum hurt. Okay, and I know this is a long video. I hope y'all are still with me. But those were, like, as they like to say, the cracks starting to show in E and how he did things. So then we start to get into the times where he is putting himself over in matches. And I don't necessarily always mean winning. It's how he makes his character look. Okay? The very first time I had a match against him, it was as his Swamp Man character. As I stated, I trained with him and took bump after bump after bump, but you know, I was still very green, as they say in the wrestling business, and I didn't have the full knowledge as to what I was doing. So I remember the very first match that I had against him was as the Swamp Man character. That's who he was portraying. And this is not me taking a dig at his character. This is literally what he told me and the rest of the WEF locker room. He said that Swamp Man is, and like, can barely function. So like anytime he does something, he gets like excited that he hit and a move that was on the offense, and when he gets beat down, it's like practically the end of the match because he can't fight back. And that's what he said. But here's the thing, E. Live up to what you say. Because if you watch the match that I did with him as Swamp Man, the very first match that we ever did together, there was once I had him in the corner and I was delivering like worked shots to the head. You didn't sell it. You no-sold it. Why? I don't know. There is no reason for you to do that. Because at that point, you're just being unprofessional. Like, at that point, you're just being a fucking dick. So he starts no-selling my punches and then shoves me out of the corner. And I'm like, when he did that in my head, I'm thinking, the fuck? Sell. So, me and him start having a back and forth match. Then he starts hooking me up. He didn't actually do them, but he starts hooking me up for moves that I either didn't know how to take or was not comfortable with taking. It was more so the first. I didn't know how to take them. I remember once he like tried to get me up for the fireman's carry. I don't know what he was thinking. But I remember countering it, and I remember he like hooked me up for a version of the suplex, and I countered that. But you know, I obviously went on to win that match with the sleeper hold. That was what I think the third win of my career. Um, so, but I don't know. It was just the no selling and like I don't mind you acting like a goof in the match if that's your character. You do you, you know, character work is character work. If your character is a goof, you're gonna act like a goof, okay? You do you. Um, but I don't know. The no selling in the corner was so unnecessary. Um, as well as like if you knew I didn't know how to take a move, don't attempt it. Just don't attempt it. It's that easy. If I don't know how to take a move, don't fucking do it because I might get hurt. Like at that point, it just feels like a personal vendetta. And it just feels like you're taking advantage of the fact that I don't know anything yet. You're just being a dick. Like you're deliberately trying to do shit that you may know how to do, but if your opponent doesn't know how to take it, someone gets hurt. Don't do that. Teach them how to take and do the move before having them take it in a match that is being recorded. Because if a fuck up happens and if someone gets hurt, that's on you. It's not that hard to figure out, E. It's really not. And like I said, this is not beef with me and you. This is me pointing out the issues that you have in backyard wrestling. And here's some more. Okay? In the match that I had with him, where he was portraying Lumberjack in TBW, when I was there and we were working through the match, by the way, my history with TBW is an entirely different story that I don't think I covered in full. So again, if y'all want me to do another long form video like this discussing the story with TBW, let me know. And I will do that. But yeah, when I was doing the match with him in TBW, I thought when I was working through the motions and working with him, I thought it went great. Didn't like the finish. Here's why I didn't like the finish. Because E's entire excuse for that finish was we don't want you to lose to a finisher because we want you to look strong before your WEF Intercontinental Championship match. And I thought that was a very reasonable excuse at the time. Then we actually get to the finish. It didn't make me look weak, Elijah. You were right about that. It did not make me look weak at all. It made me look fucking stupid. Because why the hell, at the very, very ending of the match, am I countering your offense? Okay? And then you take advantage and you slam my head into the top turnbuckle a couple times. And then you try to throw a punch, I dodge it, I hit you back. And then I'm like, hey, ref, come over here and look at this top turnbuckle. You see? You see? Huh? Look at it. What? Huh? Like, I'm having a stroke. I have no words for that finish. It was dumb. It was stupid. What the fuck? Okay, like I said, the excuse for why I lost like that is reasonable. I don't have a problem with the excuse. It was the way the finish was pulled off. Here's what you could have done. Have me hit a big move like a super kick or a curb stomp. Oh wait, forgot. You won't let me practice that move because it's your move. Forgot. E is like that. Uh like let me do a super kick or like something and then let me pin you, have you kick out at the last second and I narrowly get the win, and then I get up and I start arguing with the ref, and then I get up in his face and I'm like, ref, what the fuck was that? Like, come on, that was clearly 3. And then you go up behind me and you roll me up. 1, 2, 3. That's more reasonable than, hey, ref, look at this top turnbuckle after my face got bashed into it. Something's wrong with it. I don't even know. Even I don't know what's wrong with it. Just, I don't know, look at it. Oh shit, he rolled me up. Fuck, I'm out of the tournament. Whoops. Sorry, y'all. My mistake. Shouldn't have got distracted. It made me look like a fucking moron. It did. Like, there's no other way around it. It made me look like a fucking dumbass. So, that's another instance of him putting himself over. Alright? And I remember for a while after that, he was good. He was okay. He for once actually let me practice moves that other people had. The Sister Abigail, which is a move that I have in my arsenal right now, was actually given to me by Chris Nitro himself because he had it in his arsenal, but he didn't really use it that much. So he was just like, here, I'll teach you how to do it. You can do it. It's yours to have. So for that, Chris Nitro, thank you. I now use the Sister Abigail as a finish, although I may switch it to a secondary finish because there's another move that I want in my arsenal that I would like to use as a finish that seems relatively easy to pull off. So then we actually start to get into the shit that at the time made me despise E. It made me despise him. It made me hate him. I almost got into a fight with him over this. Like an almost physical fight. Like, we almost came to blows. Well, I should say I almost came to blows. I don't think he was going to do anything. I'm not going to get into that story here. I'm basically just going to explain, like, what his issues are. So it was, after WEF's hiatus for the winter, they came back and did, I want to say, season 2 of Strikeout. So when that happened, I decided I needed a character change because not only was I returning from the hiatus that WEF had, I was also returning from injury because I suffered a legit shoot concussion in the Big Rumble. When Toxic's knee hit me in the forehead, bam, I was dazed, I was dizzy, I was losing my balance, my head was throbbing. Guaranteed symptoms of a fucking concussion. So, like, even though I didn't get tested, I'm convinced I suffered a concussion after that. So, not only was I returning from the hiatus that WEF was taking, I was returning from the concussion that I had suffered. So, I wanted to do a character change into the animal Alexander Souls. So, I remember I had bought like cheap sorta wrestling like gear at a dollar store. I had bought the arm sleeves. I bought like the cheap like $5 leather gloves with the blue on them. You know what pair of gloves I'm talking about, I think. I ordered my kick pads off Amazon for like $15-$20. Chris actually recommended I do that since my previous gear didn't have any protection on it. Chris actually recommended I get a pair of kick pads, especially with me being tall and lean. I'm probably going to throw kicks anyway. So Chris actually recommended I get kick pads, and thankfully I did. Although I'm gonna have to order another pair because the ones that I had are in my closet, and one of the pairs of them is like shredded at the bottom. I don't know how that happened, but it did. So I had done this character change to the animal Alexander Souls, and in order to come back, I wasn't just gonna come back as this new character. I figured I'm the only guy on the roster, aside from Chris Natro, sorta, who is doing a character change, and I need to like make an impact. Like I can't just come back and show people, "Oh, hey, by the way, there's a change." Like I wanted to come back in a big way, and I figured the biggest way I could do that was by creating a faction, getting people on my side, and we run WEF. So that's where the story with the influence comes in. And I remember specifically who I wanted in the influence. I wanted Chris, Jackal, Trenton, and I think that was it. Although there might have been one more member, but if there was, I can't remember. But I know I wanted Chris, Jackal, and Trenton in the group. And Chris was perfectly fine with doing that idea. He'll tell you himself. Like, he was perfectly fine with doing me, him, Jackal, and Trent. All in the same faction, all in the influence. So, E had different plans. Uh, for whatever reason, he wanted me, Toxic, who I don't mind being in the group because he was new to WEF, having debuted at the tail end of season 1 of Strikeout. And, you know, he was just doing triple threat matches, just trying to make a name for himself. So I didn't mind having him in the group. You know, there's someone I could put under my wing, and, you know, there's someone that I could teach, like, stuff that I know about WEF. So I didn't mind Toxic. But the other member that E wanted to add into the faction was Swamp Man. Again, that character that I described earlier, he wanted him in the faction. I wouldn't care at all if you had put Lumberjack or somebody in the faction, someone with at least a little bit of fucking relevancy in WEF. But no, you chose Swamp Man. I had no choice but to agree. Because even though it was my faction and it was my idea to fucking do the shit, basically like, no. Even though this is your faction, and the theme song, by the way, that we have for the faction is your choice, the members of the faction are not going to be your choice. I don't know why. I did, like, for the characters that I had in WEF, I had no creative control. None. Like, I had an attitude that I could choose. I had a presentation that I could choose. But when it comes to the stuff that I could do in matches, when it comes to the only faction that I've had in backyard wrestling so far, the Influence, that is when I didn't have creative control. I couldn't choose the members. I couldn't choose basically our presentation. Remember when the Influence did this, the X shit? I didn't choose that. Let me tell you who chose that. E. He chose that. The fuck it. Are we the straight edge society? Are we CM Punk? What the fuck is this? What is that? What's the X? I remember it started out as like a DX like taunt where we had our hands in the air like this, but then it became this. I don't know. But it was him controlling the Influence. Him choosing, for whatever reason, even though he didn't even fucking have to, choosing everybody who was in the Influence, choosing our presentation, how we acted, who we targeted, etc., etc. And that led to the downfall of the Influence. As a matter of fact, when WEF shut down, no, it was right before WEF shut down in 2022. It was like one of, if not the last show that they had posted. They introduced Tranquilizer as a new member into the Influence. While I wasn't even there. And let me tell you why I wasn't there. Because E apparently found out about the issues that I fucking had with him. And even though he didn't say it outright, I knew that it was because of those issues he wasn't allowing me to come to the shows. It was like for what? 2 or 3 weeks in a row, I couldn't come to a WEF show because there was always some excuse. Oh, we can't find a ride for you. Oh, Elijah's busy doing something else. Yeah, going to your show and performing himself. He can't pick me up. Like, I don't care if he fucking hates me. I'm in this fucking shit too. Like, at that point, put personal animosity aside. And let's work together. This is why I'm a professional. If I'm in the ring with someone I don't like, I'm still going to make it a good match. Like, I'm not going to go off script to, like, beat the shit out of them or call them out in like, the middle of a promo. But here's the thing. E would. He would. He would expose you in the middle of a match if he didn't like you. In a promo, he'd call you out. He wouldn't even let you get a word in, which I do have a story on that, but I'm not going to put it in this video because it's kind of a long story. But, okay, I think we've reached the end of the video because those are basically the situations and the stories where E felt like he had to get himself involved in everything, felt like he had to control everything. I've already told the story about how not well he trained other people. He wouldn't even let you do another move, no matter how simple it was, because it belonged to somebody else. I couldn't do a super kick because it was one of his moves. Couldn't do a Claymore because it belonged to Jackal. Couldn't do a Falcon's Arrow because it was one of Chris's moves. Here's the thing though. Those other guys didn't care if I did their moves. Everything just had to fall into E's hands. I don't know why. You don't own the company. But that's another thing that I wanted to point out. Chris basically kind of let him get away with it because it's his best friend. But there comes a point where you got to step in, and if you know there's an issue, you have to be like, "Hey, you're starting to make people not enjoy this." And like there comes a point where you have to step in. there comes a point where you have to step in, like, regardless of if he's your best friend or if y'all go way back or whatever the fuck it is. There comes a point where you have to be like, dude, you are actively ruining this for some people. Alexander being one of them, and like, you need to do better. So like, those are the issues that E had when it came to backyard wrestling. So on the rare chance that E is watching this video, I don't know if he will, but let's say hypothetically he does. Uh, as I stated, this is not beef. I don't hate you. I don't even despise you. I do respect you because, like I said, you've been in pro and you do know what you're doing. There's just certain things in backyard wrestling that you need to learn how to carry out properly. The training. You can't like creatively control someone else's character. You can't hold someone back. Like, even if it is like a personal animosity thing, don't hold someone back on purpose just because you don't like them. Alright? Because at that point, you just sound like Vince McMahon. And we all know how fucking horrible, how fucking horrible of a human being that guy was. Like, at that point, it's just dumb. Like, this is not a personal animosity thing. This is me telling you, hey, if you ever want to get into backyard wrestling ever again, here's some things you might want to fucking fix. Matter of fact, I'll say it right here, right now. When I get a ring and I actually get RUW up off the ground, I would not care one bit at all to have E come into my company and work. I don't care at all. But here's the thing. There's just certain things that you need to change up and you need to admit that you did wrong. Because here's the thing. You want to know why so many people left WEF forcing it to shut down? Because you made it unenjoyable for those people. You made them not enjoy WEF because you were always in control of everything. And that's the issue. If you don't own the company, don't control it. I don't care if you're best friends with the owner. You don't own the company. Stop it. Alright? But ladies and gentlemen, that's basically all I wanted to say. E, if you're watching this, I do really genuinely wish you the best. If you ever go back into backyard wrestling, I do wish you the best. Like I said, change up those things and you'll be good. You would like genuinely be good to go if you just change up those things. But ladies and gentlemen, that is just about it. Damn, this video is nearly an hour long. Sorry about that. Just me yapping the whole fucking time. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in if you did. Remember, take care of yourself and love yourself. That emo guy out.